Hello, everybody.
Hello. Hello.
What do you got to complain about?
It's that time of the session where we start holding each other's bills, and I'm ready.
Don't say anything you don't want heard at the moment.
Yep.
All right. Okay, let's get started. We don't have a lot. I want to give SSTAT an opportunity to talk about a couple of their bills. We've already seen them, of course, but they believe them to be pretty significant for their operations, and I want to give them another shot at the committee and talk about it. See if there's any way we can find some area that we feel good about, and when we come forward. So the two bills are
One is 289.
289, which generally just
What
is it? What is it?
I thought it was show.
Yeah, get a shot.
Madam Kim.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Thank you. So this bill, currently there's a special fund under the direction of them that allows the administration of SSTAT to use 5% of that fund balance for their operations, and this bill would increase it to 15%.
The question I had for you the other day that you might want to talk to everybody about is why? What are you going to do with that?
Yeah, so there are quite a few things that we can do with this money if we're allowed to sort of put it under the office of the director. First of all, just general expenses like parking. That's something that we have to pay for out of that fund. Currently, as you all know, we're moving facilities. 1 out of every 3 employees is going to have a parking spot. Many of our employees raise this as an issue. So we're going to use some of the funding towards trying to get them more parking. Things like salaries. Right now, not all of our positions in the office of the director are paid out of that budget. They're paid out of other divisions within the department. So
what was that money used for before? What's it used for currently?
Currently, it's used to fund our charter services and our cloud revenue integrated services project.
What does that mean?
It's a project that we're doing to move a lot of our data, particularly our Maryland Business Express services, onto the cloud.
And are you saying that you just don't need the money to complete that project?
We don't need to use all of it towards that project, no. Some of it can be susceptible to either being clawed back, or if it isn't used, it just sits in the fund, not being able to be used for anything else. So this amount of money, it looks like a significant percentage. It really represents about $400,000. We would also like to use it to do things like go around on lecture tours. So I had the opportunity to talk about ground rent to some community leaders in Baltimore City. I had the opportunity to talk to business leaders about how to register your business through Maryland Business Express, particularly people who wanted to start new businesses, and in light of the new cannabis bill. Those were funded through other programs like the Maryland Cannabis Administration. We would like to start doing more proactive outreach so that people understand how day-to-day they interact with SSTAT. Furthermore, mailers, Post-its, informational letters that we send to people, that is all sent out through the office of the director. We would like to start devoting more funds to reaching out to potentially eligible homeowners for the homeowners tax credit, renters for the renters tax credit, and other services that they'd be able to procure through the department.
Okay, so the bottom line, you got this one set of dollars that you can't use for anything other than your sort of IT stuff. And you want to
our charter services, yes.
Charter services, and you want to use it for more administrative things, but also outreach and salaries, whole host of different things.
That's right. And this isn't money that's currently going like this is money that's already in our account. It's generated by our expedited fees. So if you get an expedited business filing or a rush business filing, that all goes into this special fund.
Gotcha. Chair Stalling.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I see you went from 5 to 15%, and I'm reading it, it's administrative expenses, like you were saying. But it says you're saying you're having a surplus. How did you get from 5 to 15%?
So that was determined by our budget and finance office. That's not the entire amount of the surplus that we currently have in that fund. But it's a comfortable amount that sort of covers what we're looking to do in our director's office or out of our director's office funds, while not, being at risk of overdrawing that special fund.
Senator Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I do realize that a few years back, SDAT stopped sending out personal property taxes for small businesses. And you'd have to go online to file your taxes. And so you stopped sending out the green cards. So what type of notification are you talking about being able to send out going forward that you would like to send out, or correspondence?
So in particular, I'm more talking about when we identify people who are eligible for particular tax credits, or informing people of the homeowner's tax credit, is resources that businesses can use through SDAT to try to get going and make sure that they remain in good standing.
I got you.
yeah.
So I guess, Mr. Chairman, that's fine. So where were the revenues before? So are you running short there? Or are you looking to expand that opportunity, those opportunities?
Are we running
Are you
short?
not already doing that? Or are you looking to expand the ability to do that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, so right now we do a little outreach. And that all comes out of that Office of the Director Fund, but we have to cut back on those services, including having people drive out to locations to speak to residents or constituents directly, because mileage has to come out of that account. So we're looking to expand on what we're currently doing, but also it would allow us to think of new ways of engaging in outreach.
Okay, thank you, Chairman.
Senator Portman.
Thank you. I just want to talk about the fund itself, because I was reading through the bill and the fiscal note. It continues to talk about this non-lapsing fund, which you've indicated.
Sure.
Where does the revenue come for the fund? And is there any impact on where that revenue is, positively, negatively, as far as when you send out assessments or when you don't send out assessments? Is there any correlation with any of that?
No, that's a great question. No, sir. So it doesn't have an effect on our assessment operations whatsoever. That's all funded
So
out of the.
where does the funding come from in the non-lapsing fund?
It comes from the expedited fees that we charge for business filings. So if you charge if you file an expedited filing fee to get your business registered in 10 to 14 days, as opposed to several weeks, that $50 that you pay on top of the initial filing fee goes into that special fund. Rush filing is $325.
Okay, and then last thing, Mr. Chairman, so you move this 5 to 15%. As you're looking at your projections going forward, I guess the concern here now is you start moving this money over here, you're gonna be back in a year or two, say, hey, we need to get more money in the fund, because now the fund's been depleted. Like, the fund's pretty healthy right now, it sounds like, and so you want to move some money around it, and I get that. But is there, the concern would be is going forward is, again, are we looking at something in a year or two, we're like, well, now we did all this, and now we're gonna need to put more money into it?
No, sir. This allows us to use those funds for the Office of the Director, but it doesn't completely encumber those funds. We can still adjust as necessary.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Zucker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So I'm just trying to get my head around this. So your budget right now is like 155 million, right? And then so there's 1.5 million according to the fiscal note, you have 1.5 million for the office of like the administrator, like the executive director, is that right? Like the secretary's office?
I don't know the exact figure.
So I'm just trying to figure out, so where does the special fund get? Is it out of the operating expenses, that 1.5 million, or is it totally separate?
It's totally separate.
Oh,
It's
okay.
a separate fund that those expedited fees are deposited directly into.
Okay.
So what this bill would allow us to do is use some of those funds in the Office of the Director.
And I'm sorry, how much is in the fund right now?
In the special fund,
Yes.
it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 million. I can get you the precise numbers.
4 million?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, any other question, Senator Benson?
Really want to get back to how you all advertise what's available to the public. What strategies do you use to really advertise so people will know what programs are available and how they can take advantage? What's the strategy?
Sure. So we have several methods of doing that. We can attach some more information to our reassessment notices, which is what we did with our redesign notices this year. We can identify areas where it seems like a homeowner, based on their income or the value of their home, might qualify for something like the homeowner's tax credit, and we can send out targeted postcards that way. Same thing for renters. It's a little harder in apartment buildings, but we still try to do that as much as possible. We can go on lecture tours. As I said, I've been able to do that a little bit, and I look forward to continuing to do that because I don't think people have a solid idea of how much SSTAT is really involved in. So these are just some of our methods of outreach. We don't do much when it comes to, like, say, ads or anything. We prefer connecting people to residents directly so that they can speak to our staff directly. But that's what we would like to start doing more of.
Do you have the adequate staffing to do this?
So we have started dedicating our staffing directly to outreach. We have an amazing customer experience manager who's very good at conducting that outreach and being proactive. And we also tend to connect people with staff as necessary. So, if somebody has a real property question or a property assessment question, we will connect them with people from our property assessment division. Tax credits, we'll try to connect them with our tax credit managers. Maryland Business Express, we try to connect them with our charter services people. There's always more we can do, and I would be the first to admit that we're not doing enough, but that's exactly why we're trying to get this funding allocated like this.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, let's talk about the other bill
So the other bill is Senate Bill.
quickly.
Yep, is Senate Bill 576. This is the one that would authorize them to divide up there, instead of having an office in every single county for assessments, but to go into 8 regions throughout the state.
Senator Corman.
Yeah, I remember when you guys presented this, and I asked then, within those zones, these different zones, has there been a determination of where these centers will be located yet? Have you guys figured that out?
Yes, it would be located in the largest county within the region. So the county that receives the highest amount of.
Okay.
Do you have the actual, well, any other questions about that particular bill? If we vote, the first bill, I think, personally, I think makes some sense. And I think we should probably give them the opportunity to use that money to do some of that work that they've been talking about. This other bill, I've sensed from the committee that there's not a lot of enthusiasm for it. But I'll be open to hearing what folks have to say about that.
I would be favorable to the first bill.
Okay.
So I think I'm totally 100% on board with the committee for the first bill. I would just say maybe we can get some reporting back from the agency just to see how it's going, how they're utilizing the money, how it's being spent.
Sure.
Doesn't have to be codified. It could be uncodified language.
Yeah,
Narrative.
we could do narrative in conference.
That's fine.
Okay, so I have a motion for the first bill. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, so the second bill, generally sensing not a lot of enthusiasm. Go ahead.
Speaking for myself, I would say not enormous enthusiasm, but no opposition to it either. It seems like consolidation kind of makes sense.
I mean, I think in general it does, but of course it does have an impact, I guess, on potential travel time for our constituents. And knowing exactly where they are, I think would probably matter to some. Yeah. Do you have it actually, do you have a map of exactly where they would be, what counties they would be in?
We don't, because we haven't been sort of engaging in those kinds of lease negotiations until we were sure that this bill would move.
So, sorry, Corbin.
You know, not just the location, I think that's obviously one thing to have the impact of constituents, but also when I think consolidation, I think cost savings. And if I remember correctly, this actually was gonna cost more to do this consolidation. It just, that didn't really make sense to me. And so maybe there's something.
Is that, have we misinterpreted that in some way?
So.
Said it was a $500,000 increase, so I don't.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, so that was the fiscal note, and that was a note particularly by the Property Tax Assessment Appeals Board. We disagree with their assessment of the costs because there are going to be staffing challenges, I think, moving forward for all of these offices. Particularly with the clerical work in some of the smaller counties where some of the clerical work can be done by fewer people. I mean, we're not planning on laying anybody off for sure, but we do feel that, you know, with the reduction in lease payments, with the ability to use, instead of overwhelming our current staff and having a drastic need for more staff, we can consolidate these counties in a way where the current staff, especially clerical staff and assessment staff and appeal staff, aren't overburdened.
So the first bill, just so you know, and I'm glad we took action on that, is not cross-filed. So this is it. So that's, I think, good that we did that. What about this other one?
The regional offices one is cross-filed and it has not moved out of the committee.
All right, well, clearly, if it's gonna pass at all, we're gonna have some sort of understanding agreement with the other side, so maybe as we move forward in conference, we can talk about that with them. But I think that's where we are. Okay, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
And we are done for today.
Great.